Hi, my name is Jessica Moore and I am an Andis educator with Andis Company. Today I was going to be talking to you about how to choose the right tools unique to your pet. I want to just give everybody a little bit of time to get on for a second. If somebody can let me know if they hear me okay, just a couple seconds and let people get on. This is Kalia here. She's going to be my demo for a little bit later. She is my dog. She's done many of these demos before, so grooming competitions, demos at work, all sorts of things. So I hope people can let me know if they hear me okay. Maybe people popping on, just give them a couple more minutes here. You ready, Khalif, for
Nicole says she can hear.
Okay, oh great. Okay. Just give another second or two here. Hopefully today we can get some questions answered for people, especially wanting to pick some tools out for their pets that are going to work great for their animals at home. Okay. So I think I'll go ahead and get started. So as I said, my name is Jessica Moore. I'm an animal educator with Andis Company. And we wanted to do a video just to help pet parents along with the struggles that they have at home when they're trying to groom their animals at home or in between grooms with professionals. We have some tools today that I wanted to go over just to help everybody understand what each thing does, how to use it correctly on your dog that you have at home. There's lots of different animals out there that have different coat types. So choosing the right tool is definitely important to making sure that you get the right kind of brushing done properly so your pet can stay healthy and mat free, hopefully. So Andis makes a whole line of grooming tools, especially for professionals, and then we also have a pet line also. You can find all of these tools that I'm going to be showing you today at andis.com. Doggington, I believe, has a promo code that you can use to get money off at andis.com. It's in the description on what you can use. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. The first thing I wanted to start with was basically the most important brush that I think most pet owners should have at home, and that would be a slicker brush. Andis makes two sizes. This is a large size and then a smaller version. Obviously, you're going to choose what size you want for what your dog is. Larger, small dogs, medium dogs, large size dogs, even some of the giant breeds, obviously you're going to want to go with the larger slicker brush. Any of your toy breeds or smaller dogs like Shih Tzus, Malteses, Yorkies, that kind of thing, you can go with the smaller brushes. The smaller brushes work really well in the toy breeds like Yorkies. I use these all the time in the salon. This is great like for poodles, a lot of the golden doodles. I even use it on double-coated breeds like German Shepherds, golden retrievers, that sort of thing. We do have hard brushes and then we have soft brushes. This one that I have here is a hard, and then this is, more hard also. This will really get through any type of coat. So then we also make a brush that has kind of it's like a self-cleaning brush. So once it gets full of hair, there's a button back here that you can just push. You just push it inwards and it'll push all the hair out of the brush. So this is nice to have at home. We have what we call a pin brush. This has just basic pins, almost looks like a human brush that we'd use on our own hair. This is a great brush for kind of drop coated breeds. If you've got your Yorkie in a long coat or your Maltese that's in a long flowy coat, Shih Tzus with long coats, that's what these brushes are great for. Then we kind of get over to the line where we're dealing with some of the dematting tools, the rakes. This is kind of like a double coated rake that you would use on I've actually used this at the salon a couple times. This just came to me not too long ago, so I haven't used it before, but I used it for the first time the other day and actually really liked it a lot. The one thing that I liked about it the most is these pins here push in. So if you're putting pressure on your dog, it's not going to be scratching their skin. They push in, so you got a lot of give there. I used this on the Golden Retriever the other day, and it pulled out a lot more coat than I was expecting it to without cutting any of the coat. It's just pulling out all that undercoat that they've got going on. A lot of dogs are shedding right now, so this is great for that. Then a little bit more of a heavier duty type brush and rake for dogs that are really thickly coated, especially in their rear ends. Bernese Mountain Dogs, Newfoundlands, Great Pyrenees. I use this on, especially on their rear end. This is a dematting tool, so there are some sharper edges on the end here. I have never cut a dog with this. The tool on the end is very round, so when it's up against the dog's skin, it's not going to cut them. This really works well with heavy pacted coat. If it's kind of gotten back there, especially on the rear end, they tend to get, you know, just from sitting all the time, the friction mats or the impact that they have. This works great because you can kind of get in there and just kind of loosen up some of the undercoat that's in there. And usually you can do that well enough to where you can get in there after that and use this to pull out all the undercoat that went in there. This is great. You can use this for dematting. This is a tool that you have to be very careful with. Using it when you have too much force, you can, you know, get in there and cut the skin if you're not too careful. So you want to make sure that you're using this properly. This is a professional tool, so I would only suggest using this if you do know, you know, kind of what you're doing. You're going in there just to break up mats, and then go in there with the rake and just pull it all out. We have a, this is a coarse rake that Andis makes. I love using this on wire-coated breeds, terriers, even some of the labradoodles that come in that have the wiry coat. You can use that on, I've used this on my double-coated breeds, golden retrievers, even like labs, shepherds, that kind of thing. This does not cut the coat. Some previous tools that I've used in the past, they kind of go through, and it does have some teeth here that can cut coat. With other brands that I have used in the past, I have found that Andis has kind of hit the mark on the head here with getting one that doesn't cut the coat. I use this in the shop every single day, especially on my terriers that come in that are hand stripped. This is great for pulling out undercoat, especially again right now while everybody's going through kind of the seasonal shed. So this works great. And you can use this in conjunction with this depending on what kind of dog you have. Obviously, if you have a wire-coated terrier, you're not going to want to use a rake like this. So far, do we have any questions?
Yes, Chelsea wants to know what a good brush is for her long-haired dachshund.
Okay, all right. So long-haired dachshunds, I have quite a few that come in. Depending if you've got a standard or a mini, you definitely want to choose something different, like either large brush or the smaller, slicker brush. I use the smaller ones kind of on the minis. The larger ones, depending on how much coat they have, sometimes I'll go with the larger brush. But the slicker brush is really what's going to get in there and get into that undercoat and pull out and then leave it all nice and smooth. One thing you do want to follow this up with would be a stainless steel comb. I had mine in my tool bag on my way here, and I don't know what happened to it. I think it got lost in the car. But Andis does make two size combs. We have a 7-inch comb, and then we also have a 10-inch comb. Those are great, so I always brush first and then go through and follow that up with a comb. So a couple other tools that we make, aside from the brushing, is we have a flea comb, which is great, not just for fleas. And then we also have nail clippers. We do have a large nail clipper and a small nail clipper. I like these because they're nice and heavy duty for the bigger breeds. Very easy to cut. They're nice and sharp. They don't hurt your hand. Not everybody is comfortable cutting their dog's nails at home, and that's fine. You can completely leave that up to your groomer. So I wanted to do a demo here on Kalia, just on the different brushing techniques that you can use. She is a standard poodle, but she's got the coat that a lot of doodles that we see come in. And in general, the brushing technique that I'm going to show you on her, you can use for poodles, doodles. I've even used, this brushing technique you can pretty much use on any breed. Really helps get in there. And And I'm going to choose with her to go ahead and use the hard slicker brush, the larger brush that we have. Using the smaller brush with her would just take me way too long. Once in a while, I'll run this through her ears or something if I just have this laying around my house. But to brush out the whole dog with the smaller brush would be a bit much for her and too much for me. So this brush is great. And then, like I said, you can also get the self-cleaning brush, which is good. Once this gets full of hair, you can just push the button back here and it'll push the hair right out. I could actually probably maybe even start with using that one, and I might get some hair out of there just to show. So with any dog that I'm grooming, whether it be at my house or at the salon, I usually always kind of start with brushing their head out first. And I like to go with the, kind of with the way that her hair grows first, and then I'll show you how I finish that up. So I'll usually just start with the head, and, small, quick strokes are sometimes the best, unless you have some heavy matting or really tight curls. Then you can go a little bit slower, but sometimes the quicker strokes tend to get through the coat a little bit better. And I'm doing this on a table. This is a grooming table that I have at my house. I just laid a towel up here for her so she's a little bit more comfortable. You can see she's very comfortable laying on the table. She's used to getting groomed. So this is kind of, sometimes I have the table set up and she'll even just go jump up there when she doesn't even need to be up there. Do we have another question?
I would like to know how the self-cleaning brush works.
So after it gets full of hair, you'll be able to push the button and then the hair just pops right out. So if I can get some hair off of her, which, it's kind of hard with poodles. They don't necessarily shed like some other dogs, and poodles are all I have at my house to show demos on. So hopefully I can get some hair off of her. I purposely have not brushed her really like in over a week in preparation for this video, and hoping that I'd be able to get some hair out of her. It is very important to keep up brushing on your dog, especially with the dogs that have curly coats. They do get matted. They don't shed in the traditional sense that you see a lot of other breeds, like golden retrievers, where they'll drop the hair in the house and you see all the shedding in the house. They typically don't do that. I don't have that issue with them, but if they're not brushed out regularly, they will kind of shed within their own coat. And what happens with that is if it's not brushed out, then it will become matted. You get big mats that kind of form behind the ears. Those are usually what we call friction mats. That's just from them constantly moving their ears and the hair is getting rubbed up against. We tend to see that also in the armpits, around the rear end, the feet sometimes just from being outside. So you want to be able to get this brush through your curly coated dog, especially if they've got some coat on them. Usually about, once, maybe twice a week, I find is pretty sufficient if correctly and you're using the right brush. So like I said, on curly coated breeds, doodles, poodles, Irish water spaniels, any of the curly coated breeds that you need to brush out, using a slicker brush is the best brush to use. In the salon, I tend to have owners that come in that get upset because their pet has to end up being shaved because they're matted. Groomers do not want to shave dogs down. It is not what we like to do. However, sometimes it is what is best for that pet. If the matting has gotten too tight down to the skin, it starts to pull at their skin and it becomes very painful. It can be a very timely thing for a groomer to have to shave that matting out. So trying to keep up with the brushing is definitely what you want to do. I find that some of my owners that swear they're brushing their dogs, upon talking to them a little bit further, I find out that they're actually using the wrong type of brush for their dog. One brush that we see a lot that people tend to buy for their dogs, no matter what breed they have, is the pin brush. The pin brush has a place. It does have a place for certain breeds, but a pin brush to be using on a curly coated breed or even like a double coated breed really does not do anything. It kind of makes you, it's a little misleading. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm brushing the dog. They're brushing the dog, but sometimes you just kind of, the pin brush allows you to only glide over the top part of the hair. So you're not able to separate the curls to get actually all the way down to the skin. So owners might be brushing their dog, but they're not using the correct brush. So that's one of the main things that I wanted to show today, is just enforce to pet parents that choosing the right brush for your pet is very, very important. especially for when it comes time for them to go in for a professional grooming. And you don't get any surprises from the groomer telling you that your dog needs to be shaved when you have been brushing them. So again, the right brush is definitely more important. The pin brush, I wish that a lot of people would, use the proper brush, so we wouldn't have to go through the aches and pains of shaving a dog down that we don't want to shave down. So the slicker brush, and I don't know if you can see on the video or not, there's a little bit of hair coming out of the brush now. So let's see if I can get some out of her here. Kalia, you're gonna have to sit up, honey. Sit up, honey. Good girl. So after I've kind of brushed, you're being a little lazy here, hon. Okay, so after I've kind of brushed with the direction of the coat, and I kind of get that brushed out, then what I start to do is I actually brush in the opposite way the coat grows. Clea, she might be a little too comfortable on these tables. Want to sit, honey? Can you sit? No? Well, actually, I do need you to sit, baby girl. There we go. Good girl. Good girl, Clea. Okay, so brushing a curly coated dog in the opposite way the coat grows is going to ensure that you can get the slicker brush all the way down to the skin. So starting from the front, I just kind of will hold some of this hair back and pull a little bit down. And I don't know if, you probably can't see, but when you're, Janae, if you want to come up and come a little closer here so everybody can see what I'm doing. So what I'm kind of doing is a technique called line brushing. So I'm pulling the hair down all the way across her head and kind of making a line. So you'll see a little bit of a line there. If I can see the skin, then I can move forward. And you see there's no curls, like everything that's here is kind of straightened out. Good girl, Clee.
We have another question.
Okay, sure.
Brandy would like to know, what type of dog coat would you use a pin brush for?
So that's a great question. The type of brush that I would use on a, what was it, a Maltese?
No, a golden.
A what?
Golden.
Oh, a golden, okay. So a golden retriever I would use a slicker brush on. I would not use a pin brush on a golden retriever. This is the slicker brush. It will get down into the undercoat and down to the skin. This is the brush that you're going to get the maximum amount of benefit out of. So you can go with the large, and then also a golden retriever you could probably go ahead and use in a rake. So you'd want a slicker brush first and then follow that up with a rake, and this will pull any of the dead undercoat out. And I can use this on Kalia as well. And anytime I see, any curls that aren't brushed out and it's not separated and they're kind of clumping together, I'm going to kind of concentrate on that area there to get brushed out and make sure that it is mat free. If you do happen to hit a tangle, which she has a little one right here, like I said, I haven't touched her in over a week with a brush, just so I could demonstrate these things on her. Fold the hair down in the area where you're finding the mat, depending on how bad the mat is. Brush in the opposite direction, just with slow strokes, so you don't get too much into the brush at once and then cause it to pull and tug at the skin, which can be uncomfortable for the pet. So I'm brushing in the opposite direction here. Okay, and then what I usually like to do is kind of come on the opposite end and kind of brush it back down, holding some of that down, so you're only taking a little bit at a time. And if you have to work on that area where you have a little knot or a tangle for a little bit, that's okay. If you've got a smaller one, you can go ahead and use the smaller brush just to focus on that area where you have a tangle. And this gives you a little bit more control over the brush on it, where exactly you're brushing. It's not ever a bad idea to have kind of an arsenal of brushes. I have them all over my house. Small, large, medium, soft, hard. I've got it all. And I can just focus on that little knot that she's got right there. And it just kind of popped right out. So once you get through that, then you can continue to move down. And I'll go ahead and switch back to my larger brush here. And I'm just going to work down her neck. This really shouldn't be painful for your animal, especially if you keep up with the brushing on a regular basis. This can actually be a very good bonding experience. I start my puppies off very young when they're learning how to groom. I'm putting them up on a table. Obviously, not all pet owners have grooming tables at home. One thing that I kind of tell my pet owners is if you've got like an island in your kitchen, or even some pet parents have told me that they have used like the top of their washing machine or their dryer, put a little mat up there, somewhere that's going to be comfortable for you, but also for them. Dogs tend to have kind of a natural fear of heights, so once they're up on a table, it's different than when they're on the floor or laying on the couch with you. Sometimes they tend to get a little wiggly and don't want to stay. So pet parents have told me in the past that putting a dog up on an island in the kitchen or somewhere high where it's stable has helped them achieve getting their pet brushed at home without having to buy a grooming table at home. When you can do this in sections at home, like you don't have to do the whole dog at one time if you don't want to. There are times when she's got a lot fuller coat and I have her in a longer trim where I'll like brush her body and then I get tired or she gets tired and then I'll go ahead and do her legs like the next day or the day after. She's pretty short right now. She's actually in between haircuts right now. I'm growing her out into a fuller trim. She was sporting a modified trim all summer, but we're going to grow her back out so she has a little bit more hair on her for the winter. Having them sit in the position where all of their skin is kind of taut when you're brushing them is a little bit more comfortable than having them stand up. Sometimes when they're standing, the skin can kind of move with the brush. Sometimes holding the skin down while you're brushing a certain area. You know, I'm not pinching her, I'm not actually holding her skin, I'm just kind of holding on to the hair and just pulling down a little bit just to keep that area taut. That does make it a little bit more comfortable for the dog. If you do hit a mat or a tangle, sometimes just holding the hair out of the way and then pushing down on the skin and then just working on that mat, but your finger is right there on the skin, so you're not going to be brushing the bristles on the skin too hard. You're not going to be pulling and tugging whenever you're trying to get a mat out. Also, picking mats apart with your fingers is not always that is a great thing to do depending on how bad the mat is. If it's a little tangle, you can kind of sit there sometimes and just kind of work it through. A lot of the times they get them on their ears. You can just pull this out, you know, just kind of pick it apart with your fingers. Another great thing too is you can use a little bit of leave-in conditioner or some conditioning spray. Just spritz that on there. Even sometimes just water just to get it wet so it doesn't get frizzy and fly away. You can do that. Also, a little bit of cornstarch. Just a dab of cornstarch. You know, you're going to kind of rub that in there. That helps soak up any of the dirt and grease that's in the ear and then allows you to kind of pick apart a knot or a tangle and then allow you to kind of go back over and brush it through. So after you have your dog brushed out, you always want to follow that up with a comb. Again, I don't have my comb because I think it fell out of my bag. I cannot find it. But like I said, Andis does have, we have a 10-inch stainless steel comb and then we also have a 7-inch stainless steel comb. Both of them have a wider tooth and then a little area where they've got a smaller tooth. Depending on your dog, using this finer tooth around the face is great. Helps pull out a lot of things that you don't want in there, food crusties, that sort of thing. And then you're going to follow up the brushing with the comb. So the comb is going to be it's going to tell you whether or not you need to keep brushing. So once you think you've got the dog brushed out, run a comb through them because that comb is going to go all the way down to the skin. And if you can pull that comb up and out all the way through, then you know you're good. You don't need to keep brushing and you can move on to a different area. So I don't know if this, you can show this on here with the self-cleaning brush. There is a little bit of hair in here. Can you see that? And then once there's hair in there, you're going to just push that and you can just wipe the hair away. So it comes out that easily. So these are nice to have at home. And that's easy. You know, like with these, you know, sometimes you just got to kind of work it through with your fingers, or you can even use a comb and kind of comb it through. But the self-cleaning brushes are nice because you can just literally push the button and it pops right out. Are there any other questions so far?
Nope.
Okay. So one other tool I wanted to show, which people sometimes tend to be a little bit afraid of, that you could have at home, especially if you're grooming your pet at home and you're not using a professional groomer, is a dematting tool. It looks scarier than it is. Again, this is not going to cut me, but if used improperly, you can cut a pet open. But this will help demat any area that you have matting. I use this in the salon. I tend to use this more like around tails. If an owner wants me to try to save a tail, if it's savable, I will use this. I try to stay away from not using it on ears, but with tails, she actually, and I saw this the other day, has a little bit of a knot right here in her tail. So you're going to want to slicker brush that first. You know, you're just going to brush this area and get all the curls separated so the hair is as straight as possible. That is a goal that you want to have, especially with a curly coated breed, is to get all the curls out and get everything as straight as possible. So I was brushing kind of with the direction, and then I'm going to finish by kind of pulling all this hair out, separating it, and that way I can see the skin. As long as you can see the skin, you're usually pretty good. I love my Andis brushes. I go back to these brushes all the time. I use these at home on my own animals. I use them in the salon, on pets. They're durable. They hold up. They are my favorite. They're very affordable. Okay, so this is kind of where her little mat is. So I'm going to try to brush as much as I can out. And she's got a ball like right here. So I'm going to try to get that through. There we go. And then this is the tool that will kind of help me break this mat up. Can you see that on the video? I'm just going to work this in right from the base, and I'm kind of going slowly so I'm not pulling too much on her skin here. And this is just going to help pull that mat apart so I can go back through with the brush. And you can pull the hair out of the way that you've already kind of dematted. And I'm using this just to break up the mat. You don't have to try to run the whole thing through the hair. You're just breaking up the mat, because then the slicker brush can go back behind here and pull the rest of that hair out. I'm just trying to get this little mat that she's got here just away from the skin, so then I can work on it with the slicker brush. And that's all this tool is meant for. It's not meant to be combing, you know, through the whole entire area that you're trying to demat. You're just using this in a quick slow-mo just to kind of work it through here, just to break up. So I think I've got some of it actually mostly broken up away from the skin, so then I can follow that up with the slicker brush. But this is where her mat was when it started down here. So it doesn't take much. You can even put a little bit of leave-in conditioner on here before you start, and that will also help kind of keep it from getting too much breakage. And also if you've got like static kind of going on now that we're getting into fall and winter, air's on, the coat's kind of getting dry.
Liz would like to know the name of that tool.
This is a dematting tool. Can you see it? And then I'm just going to go back here, move that out of the way, and you can kind of see where that mat is. Can you actually see that on camera? Okay. Just want to make sure everybody can see what I'm talking about. And then I'm just going to take my slicker brush and it literally just kind of brushed out. So I broke the hair up, and then I was able to brush it out. So now I can get the brush all the way through her tail. Didn't cause any damage. She's, still has all her hair. I wasn't really touching that all the way down to her skin, just working it out from the base. Important part when you're using a dematting tool is making sure that you separate all the good hair out of the way. So if all this hair is not matted, I want to get that out of the way because I don't want to bring that down into the mat. And then I like to hold down, the extra hair that's in the way. So just move that out of the way. And again, I'm kind of going against the grain here just so I can get down and see the skin. And once I can see the skin, then I know I've kind of gotten it all the way through. And then again, after you're done, you're going to follow this up with your comb. Using a slicker brush with a comb, or really any brush, even a pin brush, if you have a dog that you're using a pin brush on, like a full-coated Maltese, or a Yorkshire Terrier that a lot of people have. I've been seeing a lot come in with full hair. Your comb is going to be your deciding factor on whether or not you did a good job brushing. And so she's got, still some hair here that needs to be brushed out. Good girl, Kalia. Sometimes she tends to get a little bit more matted back here just because when she drops her tail, of course, it's kind of in the area of back here. So that can get, a little dirty and matted easier than the rest of her tail. She's kind of a rough girl when she plays. She likes to get in the dirt. She likes to roll in the dirt. She likes to play in the mud, out in the rain. She's kind of a crazy dog that way. So sometimes I am fighting mats in certain areas of her body just because of how she plays. I do have other dogs. So a lot of times when you have multiple pets in your family, you are going to get mats in areas, especially ears. So the matting, on the ears is very common. The legs, I have her son and he likes to grab at her legs, pulling and tugging. Sometimes I have to battle some of the knots down there. They especially start to get matted right around the bottom of their feet, kind of go up onto their legs. If you have boy dogs that don't always aim that well, like I have one that doesn't aim that well, sometimes when he potties, he's peeing straight on his legs. I got to brush that out just to kind of keep that area clean and free from mats. So sometimes, paying attention to certain areas that are going to affect your dog, depending on how their lifestyle is. So with these ears, she doesn't have any mats in her ears. So brushing the ears with a slicker brush, and you can use a slicker brush really almost on any breed. This brush is amazing. You can use it on, on your longer coated dogs that have the silkier drop tight coat, to the curly coats, to the double coats. Obviously this would not work on anything like a boxer or a Great Dane or anything like that, the Dobermans that have really short coats. But these are great for dogs that do have longer hair. I always try to remind people sometimes it's best if you just put your hand on the ear. So one part of my hand is on the underside of her ear, so I'm holding the ear, and that way the brush isn't like kind of pulling and tugging on her ear. And if you've got a tangle, you can kind of work on that area. You can separate the hair on the ears, and then always remember to flip the ear. So you want to make sure you're brushing on the underside of the ear also. So right here, and this is the area where they tend to get mats, golden retrievers especially. I'm always shaving out mats that get so tight because they haven't been worked on at home. And this is again an area if you've got a new puppy in your house, it's playing with your other dog, those get matted easy. So flipping the ear over is important because then you can get in there and get that brush through. And if this is an area that you're constantly battling with your dog, getting matted, and you take your dog to a groomer, you can always request your groomer to actually just shave the hair on the inside of the ear, especially a lot of the drop-coated breeds. She's getting over an ear infection. And I am always taking care of her ears, but she's just more sensitive than my other dog, so she's getting ear infection. So I try to keep the area right here shaved. And then on a lot of pet client dogs that I do shave the inside of the leather of the ear. Now when they flip their ear back over, you would never know that I shaved the inside part of that ear. And then you can just brush this through like normal. And it also allows for more airflow back into the ear. Her ears don't really tend to get matted too bad. And then when I'm brushing feet, and I like to do this when the dog is either sitting or standing up, I will pull the leg out. Move this for you, Clee. And I like to start at the top of the leg and then work your way down. So I'm just doing like short, quick strokes. And then on the outside part of the leg. And I like these brushes because they have a curve to them, so it makes brushing a lot easier instead of being just a straight flat brush. And then on the under part of the leg. And again, this is an area that gets matted pretty easily in a lot of pets that I see. And then kind of get in from this side by the armpit and then the inside of the leg. And if you can see the skin and get down there, and like I said, brushing in the opposite direction is what you want to do. And then you would follow that up with a comb. With the back legs, I like to hold the legs, and I'll do the same thing. I'll kind of start at the top and work my way down. She doesn't have too much coat right here. Even with short coat, you still wanna do regular brushing. It does help promote healthier skin in coat if they're brushed regularly. Also helps keep the dirt and the debris out of their coat, and can sometimes get you a little bit longer in between grooms if you're able to keep them mat free. If your dog doesn't want to let you hold their leg, if they got hip problems or they're a little older, you can let them stand and keep them in a comfortable position for them. And then the back of the foot, the back of the leg. Okay, do we have any more questions?
Yes. Brandy would like to know what type of brush to use on a Staffy.
Okay, so actually we don't have any of the brushes that you would use on a Staffy. You'd probably want to go with like a rubber curry brush. Any of the slicker brushes or any of the pin brushes that we have would work for a coat that short. I actually have Danes as well, so I'll just run like a rubber curry brush over her, get a lot of hair out of her, and that works the best for the short coated dogs. Did we have any other questions?
Nope.
No? Okay. Really quick, I wanted to go over the nail trimmers that we have. We have, like I said earlier, we have a nail clipper, which is just kind of a one and done thing. You clip and you're done. I like to follow that up too with the file. So we have an electric file. Andis makes an electric file. I use this every single day on many breeds. And in fact, actually the other day, I used this also on a cat. I had a cat where the owner has a blood disorder and can't have scratches or marks on her skin. She begged me to try to file them as much as I could. I couldn't find my hand file, so I'm like, oh, I'll just go ahead and try it with this. It's pretty not loud at all. And to a higher speed, or you can also bring it down to a lower speed. So I had this on as low as it can go, and the cat sat through it. She had never been in for a nail trim before. She did great. We also have a smaller one that would also work well on a cat, but also on the smaller breeds, a lot of the toy breeds. And this, like, you can hardly hear it. And you can bump this up. That's off. There we go. There we go. So that's on high. So again, very quiet. Doesn't hurt, but this is perfect for toy and small breed dogs. All right. So if you have any other questions? Anybody? I'll give anybody kind of a last minute chance to ask me anything. Otherwise, do we have any other questions? No? Oh, one other thing I too also wanted to show everybody is these flea combs are great. These flea combs, I use this all the time, especially in the bathtub with dogs that have eye crusties. So I kind of left hers just for the purposes of showing how to use a flea comb on the eyes. This is great. If your dog doesn't kind of let you get it out, these combs, the teeth are so close together that you can literally just comb these out. I did put a little bit of warm water around her eyes before I started the video just to moisten that up a little bit, because it can be a little bit uncomfortable to comb that out if it's in there dry. So hers is kind of loosened up a little bit. So these combs are great because literally where the eye boogies are, you can just go in there and comb them out. And the same thing with this side. Sometimes I just kind of open the eye, pull the skin a little taut, and you can go in there and just comb it out. And it just kind of comes right off. So if you have a dog that tends to have a lot of watery eyes or buildup, using one of those every day works great.
Nicole would like to know which nail grinder is good for puppies.
Well, both of them actually. I use both of them. This one I use on puppies, just turning it down on low, and then as they get older you can bump it up. Otherwise, if you have a smaller breed that isn't really going to get bigger, this one works great as well. This one is my favorite. I use this every single day. Like I said, I use this on everything. I've used this on my Dane. I use it on the poodles, toy breeds. All the products that I showed you today, you can all find at andis.com. And if we don't have any other questions, then I will go ahead and sign off. And I will try to go back and check later. If anybody has any other questions, I can go back on there and I can answer them later. And I hope everybody has a great day and a great weekend. Kalia doesn't seem to care one way or the other. So thank you very much. Again, my name is Jessica Moore and I work with Andis. I would like to thank Doggington Post for the opportunity to share this information with all of our pet parents. Thank you very much.